What is the worst of woes that wait on age? What stamps the wrinkle deeper on the brow? To view each loved one blotted from life's page, and be alone on earth as I am now. Before the chastener humbly let me bow, o'er hearts divided and o'er hopes destroyed. Roll on, vain days, full reckless may ye flow, since time hath reft whate'er my soul enjoyed, and with the ills of eld mine earlier years alloyed. So that was stanza 98 of the second canto of Childe Harold's Pilgrimage by Lord Byron, which closes the first publication of this epic poem that he wrote. So this was published in 1812. This was right after his what was called the Grand Tour at the time, which was kind of a traditional tour of Europe that middle upper class, I don't want to say noblemen, but those with the means, was kind of like a coming of age thing that men did at the time. And so throughout the first and second canto, you follow this protagonist, Childe Harold, who kind of just acts as a lens which the viewer can experience the journey. It's not super, at least the first two cantos are not super self-reflecting on the thoughts and deeds, I guess, of this Childe Harold. There are, kind of political opinions inserted based on the locations that he visits. He visits Portugal, Spain, Greece, Albania, and especially when and kind of the through line politically is the, Napoleon versus the other European countries that are fighting for their own independence. And Childe Harold tonally comes out firmly on the side of independence, revolution. And so, as I said last week when I did the first, an excerpt from the first canto, Byron is very much putting himself on the page when he writes this character, Childe Harold. I would say a little more favorably than what his deeds actually reflect. And kind of a continuation of last week. And this sonnet, this stanza is a good example of it. The guy is like depressed and melancholy, and this stanza, I actually really enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me of some of the earlier Shakespearean sonnets that kind of had that dealt with the concept of mortality and marching towards this inevitable end, and kind of depressing thoughts. And I find it kind of ironic with how melancholy this guy was, because it's one of those things that this guy had the means to find happiness. He had enough. He had the financial means to make himself happy and seek out good company, but he, for his short life, was magnetically drawn to drama and scandal and pissed off a hell of a lot of people. That said, he, in this writing, but also in other writings, seems to be very self-aware of that fact. He kind of knows he's an asshole, which I suppose is a little more... I suppose I'd prefer that. I'd prefer a self-aware asshole than someone who thinks they're God's gift to the earth. I mean, he thinks he's that in other ways, but I think he, in response to some of his critics that, criticized him writing this Childe Harold, like this knight in training, as if it were him, and said, you've never done, anything noble or chivalrous. Byron responded and said, hey, you should look up the Middle Ages, because it wasn't all, this kind of idyllic idea of a knight that we have. Is, these were people. The Middle Ages had, a lot of darkness and was not just filled with these unrealistically noble and chivalrous people. It's kind of a trope, and so it's not like he thought he was that. But it didn't stop him from being an asshole, and so that's kind of where I lose some sympathy for him. And especially with this melancholy thing, because it's like he the at the time this was at the time of Napoleon, and so the Europe was kind of war wearied, and that is one of the biggest. I think it was the cause of much of the success that this epic poem received critically was that it was kind of relevant and captured effectively the war weariness of Europe at the time, which is so ironic because it's like Byron had the ability to avoid that hardship, and it's one of those things that you kind of see. I mean, you kind of see it today. Like one of the most popular video games in the world is Call of Duty. Like we're drawn to war when it's like war sucks, man. We shouldn't really idealize it and fantasize it. We should give it the respect that it deserves, the reverence it deserves. I guess that it's awful. It's awful and terrible, and if you aren't forced to serve, you should consider yourself blessed, you know. And the people that do voluntarily do that, I mean, that takes a sort of fortitude that is not found in everybody. Byron ended up fighting for Greece and for Greece's independence, which, I mean, you respect the guy. Hey, he went and fought in war, but it just, with all of his writing, it just seems like he kind of wanted to be the hero that's like, you know, saving the day, and it's something that frustrates me a little bit when I read about this guy's history, and it's like he could have had a great long life, and had a family, and fallen in love, and been happy. Because that's the thing that I see as a through line through all this. He's just not that happy a lot of the time. But yeah, so you can really draw a lot of insight into this guy's character in his writing, like Shakespeare. And so I'm noticing kind of a through line is that the content seems to be improving. Like even just within these two cantos, which were written about the same time, I really like this, because this closes the first publication, this section I just read. I really like it. Just the writing of it. You know, the first line sets an interesting lyrical tone with this like 5 W's. It's what is the worst of woes, or whatever it is, that waits on age. You know, all the W's. It rolls off the tongue very easily, and it's introspective, and these are very weighty questions that he asks about, you know, the worst thing is to feel like you're alone, to lose all your loved ones and outlive them, and that's profound and true. But it's also frustrating because it's like you piss off all these people, man. Not that many people love you. Like you should spend your time making meaningful connections with other humans instead of just shitting on everyone you meet. Damn you, Byron. So yeah, that was the second canto of Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. So we're going to stop with Childe Harold. I'm going to fast forward a little bit into Byron's career over the next couple weeks, and we can see kind of the evolution of his writing as he ages. You know, although he dies young, and so yeah. So this has been great fun for me. I'm learning a lot from this. That's helping to inform some of the work I'm doing in Arcadia right now. So we just opened Arcadia in Concord this past Friday. We have a show today, 2 o'clock this Sunday up in Concord. So if you're not doing anything on a Sunday, come see this awesome play. Yeah, I'll put the link in the comments, and yeah. So this has been really fun, and I hope you enjoyed this. So yeah, happy Sunday.